There is a uniquely human humiliation that plays out millions of times a day. You are an apex predator. You hold the biological legacy of survivors who weathered ice ages and saber-toothed cats. Then, you drop your keys. You bend over to pick them up, and a blinding electric agony shoots through your lower back. You drop to your knees. You are functionally paralyzed by a task that would not give a housecat a moment of pause. This is not just bad luck, it is a species-wide structural failure. Your spine is a flawed, ancient prototype. Up to 80% of humans will experience debilitating lower back pain. Our modern medical landscape is flooded with orthopedic surgeons, ergonomic chairs, and lumbar support pillows. These are entire industries built to prop up a biological chassis that is inherently defective. We experience this as sciatica, bulging discs, and osteoarthritis. Psychologically, it breeds a strange, low-level anxiety in adults, a hesitance to lift a toddler, a fear of moving furniture, a dread of sneezing at the exact wrong angle. In a modern, safe environment, this physical bug is entirely counterproductive. The spine is the central pillar of our anatomy. It is the conduit for our central nervous system and the core of our locomotion. For it to fail under the trivial mechanical load of tying a shoelace is an evolutionary absurdity. We are the only mammal on Earth that routinely blows out its own structural foundation simply by existing. The question is not why our backs hurt. The question is how a creature with such a disastrously engineered spine conquered the planet. To understand this flaw, we must look at the triage of evolutionary survival. Around 4 to 6 million years ago, the dense, lush forests of East Africa began to recede. They were replaced by vast, open, and deadly savannas. Our tree-climbing ancestors were thrust into an environment where their traditional mode of movement was a fatal liability. Knuckle-walking through tall grass meant you could not see predators. It meant exposing too much of your body to the blistering equatorial sun. We had to stand up to survive. Imagine the visceral, unforgiving reality of an early human mother on the African savannah 1.5 million years ago. The air is thick with the scent of dry dust, trampled wild basil, and the metallic tang of scavenging marrow. The sun is a relentless physical weight pressing down on her shoulders. She walks upright, not on smooth pavement, but over uneven, rocky terrain, through thick brush and deep mud. Clinging to her chest is a helpless, heavy infant. In her hands, she carries scavenged tubers and a stone axe. Every single step she takes sends a violent kinetic shockwave up her legs. That shockwave crashes directly into the newly curved lower region of her spine. In this ancient context, back pain was not merely an inconvenience. It was a spectre of death. The hominin spine was literally reshaping itself over generations, and the bodies of our ancestors absorbed this evolutionary friction. A slipped disc or a severe lower back spasm on the pleistocene plains meant an inability to keep up with the nomadic tribe. To fall behind was to be exposed to the terrifying jaws of false saber-toothed cats or packs of ancient hyenas. There was no rest. There was no recovery period. Early humans marched through the pain. Their spines compressed and their intervertebral discs slowly ground down as they utilized their upright posture to throw rocks, process carcasses, and desperately march toward the next water source. We are the descendants of the ones whose spines held out just long enough to reproduce before crumbling. Evolution is not an intelligent designer. It is a blind tinkerer. Where the survival pressure demanded that we stand up to free our hands and see over the grass, evolution did not build a new skeletal system from scratch. Instead, it took a spine designed for a quadruped. For millions of years, that spine functioned brilliantly as a horizontal suspension bridge. It hung effortlessly between four limbs, safely and evenly supporting the heavy organs underneath it. When survival meant standing upright, evolution took that perfect suspension bridge and aggressively hoisted it up into a vertical flagpole. Suddenly, a structure meant to hang horizontally was forced to bear the entire crushing weight of the upper body, the head, and whatever our ancestors carried in their arms. It was a desperate, hasty architectural modification, and it immediately created a centre of gravity crisis that threatened to tip early humans forward onto their faces. To prevent this new bipedal creature from constantly falling over, evolution engineered a biological shock absorber. It created the lumbar lordosis, a sharp inward curvature of the lower spine. This S shape acted as a necessary spring. It allowed our ancestors to become the ultimate endurance runners, capable of tracking prey to exhaustion under the midday sun. But this life-saving mechanism came with a dark, permanent trade-off for the hominin skeleton. This new curve created a biomechanical Frankenstein monster. Massive vertical compression and shearing forces were suddenly localized onto just a few fragile discs in the lower back, specifically the L4 and L5 vertebrae. Paleontologists and biomechanical engineers widely view the human spine as an architectural nightmare. Taking a mammalian spine and tipping it 90 degrees created fatal weak points, predisposing the entire species to vertebral fractures and osteoarthritis. We can trace this architectural compromise deep into the fossil record. When anthropologists examine the skeletal remains of early hominins like Lucy, who lived over 3 million years ago, the evidence is etched into bone. The inward curve of the lower back was established early as a desperate survival measure. It proved that the structural design flaw of our backs was locked in long before we had modern brains. We sacrificed skeletal stability for the simple ability to use tools. Recent landmark studies in evolutionary biology took this a step further. Researchers compared the vertebrae of modern humans to those of chimpanzees. They discovered the ancestral shape hypothesis. It turns out that modern humans who suffer from severe slipped discs actually have spines that are closer in shape to those of our ape relatives. Back pain is literally a consequence of our modern bipedal pressure grinding against an ancient, ill-fitting anatomical suit. The tragedy of the modern human back is born of a bitter irony. The spine was compromised to allow us to run down prey and walk across continents. But the success of that ancient intellect, fostered by our freed hands, eventually built the modern world. We built a world of cubicles, cars, and couches. Today, we take a flawed biological structure that requires constant movement to maintain its muscular scaffolding, and we fold it into a chair for 10 hours a day. Sitting forces the natural curve of the lower spine into a reversed position. We take millions of years of evolutionary engineering and crush the front portion of the intervertebral discs, stretching the back ligaments to their breaking point. The physiological friction is undeniable. Our bodies are decaying from the inside out because they are starved of the very primal movements they were built to endure. At the same time, they are far too fragile to handle the geometry of modern comfort. The psychological toll is a species in chronic pain. We medicate ourselves just to get through the workday. We undergo invasive surgeries to fuse bones together, literally bolting our evolutionary past into submission. We are caught in a sedentary trap, punishing a skeleton that was built to walk miles a day across the unforgiving earth. The very adaptations that made us human are the same ones systematically breaking us down in the artificial environment we built for ourselves. Every time you experience that sharp, terrifying twinge in your lower back from simply bending over, it is a ghost of the pleistocene haunting you. It is the immediate, visceral echo of a prehistoric trade-off made on the scorched plains of Africa. We traded structural integrity for the ability to gaze across the savannah, to hold our children, and to carry the fire. We touch the stars, but we remain forever shackled to the aching, fragile pillar of bone that got us there.